I never believed in ghosts. Not after 20 years hauling freight across this godforsaken country, staring down endless blacktop under starless skies. But that night on Route 66 changed everything. I can still feel the chill of her hand on my arm, the way she just vanished into thin air, leaving me alone in the cab with the rain pounding like accusations. My name's Tom Harlan, and this is my confession, because if I don't get it out, it'll eat me alive. It started like any other run. I'd been a long-haul trucker since I dropped out of community college back in '98, chasing the freedom of the open road to escape a messy divorce and a pile of debts. Route 66 was my bread and butter, that iconic stretch from Chicago to the deserts of Arizona, dotted with crumbling motels and forgotten diners. The pay was decent, the solitude my therapy. Nothing scared me. Not breakdowns in the middle of nowhere. Not sketchy hitchhikers I'd passed 100 times. Until that stormy October night in 2023, when I was hauling a load of auto parts from Joliet, Illinois, westward toward Oklahoma. The weather report had warned of thunderstorms, but I pushed on, the wipers slapping rhythmically against the windshield, the CB radio crackling with static. The air smelled of ozone and wet asphalt, and the headlights cut through the fog like knives in butter. I was alone, or so I thought, as I crossed into the more isolated parts of the route. Past the neon glow of Willow Springs, the storm really hit. Thunder rolled like distant artillery, and lightning forked across the sky, illuminating the barren fields flanking the highway. Archer Avenue, part of the old Route 66 alignment, felt eerier than usual, with its twisted trees clawing at the clouds. I'd heard the stories from other truckers at rest stops, whispers about Resurrection Mary, the phantom woman in white who'd been hitching rides since the 1930s. They said she was tied to a real accident, a young girl killed in a hit and run after a dance, her spirit doomed to wander the road forever. Bullshit, I always figured. Urban legends to spook rookies. But that night, as the rain sheeted down, I saw her. A pale figure standing on the shoulder, drenched but unmoving, her white dress glowing faintly in my high beams. But that was only the beginning. I slowed the rig, my tires hissing on the slick pavement. She looked so out of place, no coat, no bag, just standing there like she'd been waiting for me. My gut twisted, every instinct screamed to keep driving. Truckers have rules. Don't pick up strangers after dark, especially not on haunted stretches like this. But the rain was biblical, and she seemed vulnerable. Young, maybe early 20s, with blonde hair plastered to her face. I cracked the window, the cold air rushing in with the scent of mud and decay. "You okay, miss? Need a lift?" She nodded silently, her blue eyes locking onto mine with an intensity that made my skin crawl. She climbed into the cab without a word, her dress dripping water onto the floor mat. The door slammed shut, and suddenly the cab felt 10 degrees colder, like I'd opened a freezer. We rolled on, the engine rumbling beneath us. I tried small talk to ease the tension. "Where you headed? Bad night to be out." She stared straight ahead, her voice soft and distant, like an echo from an old radio. "Home, just up the road." Her hands were folded in her lap, pale and unmarred. No rings or jewelry, except a small clutch purse that looked vintage, like something from the Depression era. The air grew thick with an unfamiliar perfume, lilacs maybe, mixed with something metallic, like blood. I glanced at her in the rear view, but her reflection seemed fuzzy, almost translucent. Outside, the storm raged, lightning revealing abandoned farmhouses and rusted billboards for long-gone attractions. I asked her name. "Mary," she whispered, her lips barely moving. That's when the CB sparked to life, unbidden. Static, then a faint voice murmuring, "She's not real. Turn back." I grabbed the mic, but no one was transmitting. My heart pounded. Had I imagined it? I wish I had listened to that warning right then. The miles blurred as we pushed deeper into the night, the road narrowing to a 2-lane blacktop flanked by dense woods. Mary didn't speak much, but when she did, it was cryptic, like pieces of a puzzle I didn't want to solve. "The dance was lovely," she said suddenly, her eyes glazing over. "But he argued. I had to walk. I chuckled nervously. Dance, in this weather. You from around here? She turned to me, her gaze piercing. Archer Avenue, the ballroom. 1934. It was raining then too. My blood ran cold. I knew the legend. Mary Bregovy, or maybe Anna Norcus, killed in a crash after leaving the O. Henry Ballroom, now called Willowbrook. Real women, real accidents. Bregovy in a downtown wreck, Norcus on the way home from a party. Historians debated which one inspired the ghost, but truckers swore it was true, with sightings documented in old newspapers. You're pulling my leg, I muttered, gripping the wheel tighter. The cab's heater was blasting, but frost formed on the inside of the windows. Then she touched my arm, her fingers like ice, and said, "The driver never stopped. They never do." The sound grew closer, and then I realized I wasn't alone in my doubts. Strange things started happening as we approached Justice, Illinois, where Resurrection Cemetery loomed like a sentinel in the dark. The radio flipped stations on its own, landing on scratchy big band music from the 30s. Glenn Miller or something, tinny and out of time. Mary's foot tapped faintly to the rhythm, but her face was expressionless, shadows playing across her features like veils. I felt watched, not just by her, but by something outside. Eyes in the trees, perhaps. Lightning flashed, and for a split second. "You see that?" I asked, my voice cracking. She smiled faintly. "They're waiting, like me." Panic bubbled up. I accelerated, the truck shuddering over potholes. Reports from other drivers flooded my mind. Cab drivers in the 70s picking her up, only for her to vanish at the cemetery gates. A man in 1939 dancing with her at a hall, her hands cold as death. Was this happening to me? The rain intensified, visibility dropping to nothing, and the CB hissed again. "She's dead, Tom. Let her go." But the worst was yet to come. By now the isolation hit hard. The endless ribbon of Route 66 stretching into oblivion. No other vehicles in sight. Mary's presence filled the cab like smoke, her scent overpowering, her silence deafening. I pressed her for details. The car was black, like yours once was. My truck was red. How did she know about my old rig? Chills raced down my spine as memories surfaced. A foggy night 10 years back. A swerve to avoid a deer. A thud I dismissed as a pothole. Had I? I turned, but she was nowhere. Or was she? Stunned, I sat there, engine idling, the storm mocking me with its fury. I grabbed my flashlight, stumbled out into the downpour, searching the roadside. Nothing but mud and shadows. The bartender, an old-timer named Earl, poured me coffee with shaking hands. "You saw her, didn't you? Blonde and white? Truckers like you report it most, alone at night. One fellow in '89 swore she jumped in front of his rig, vanished on impact." I asked about the CB voices. "That's new," he said, "but she's evolving. Some say she's cursed to relive it, pulling drivers into her loop." I left shaken, vowing to quit the route. But as I climbed back into the cab, the radio whispered, "Route 66, again." I questioned reality. Was I hallucinating from fatigue, or had I tapped into something ancient? Route 66's history is riddled with tragedies. Accidents in the Dust Bowl era, hit and runs on desolate stretches. Truckers' forums buzzed with similar tales. One from 2022. A driver in Arizona picking up a woman who vanished mid-sentence, leaving a vintage coin dated 1934. The confrontation came at dawn, as I pulled into a rest stop near the Oklahoma border. Exhausted, I collapsed in the bunk, but sleep brought nightmares. Reliving the pickup, Mary's face morphing into accusation. "You hit me," she hissed in the dream. Waking in sweat, I checked my old logs. 10 years ago, on a rainy night, I'd reported a minor incident on Archer Avenue, dismissed as nothing. Had I been the hit and run? No police report, no body found. But doubt festered. I faced my worst fear. Maybe I was part of the legend now, doomed to haunt the road. Fleeing the stop, I sped westward, but her perfume lingered, the CB murmuring my name. At a desert gas station, a local warned, "She's been seen further west too, vanishing in New Mexico, tied to Route 66 wrecks from the 40s. I fought the urge to turn back, but the entity invaded my thoughts, mimicking my ex-wife's voice, my regrets. Either fight, flee, or fall. I chose to confront. I returned to Resurrection Cemetery weeks later, under a full moon, to end it. The gates loomed, bars bent as legend said, from her grip or a truck crash. I walked the graves, flashlight beam dancing over headstones. At Mary Bregavy's plot, died March 10, 1934, age 21, I felt a presence. "Why me?" I whispered. Wind whipped up, carrying lilac scent, and a voice echoed, "Because you remember." Visions assaulted me. The 1927 crash killing Anna Norkus, passengers flung from a car after the ballroom. Bregovy's Loop accident, body mangled. Real tragedies, spawning the ghost. Something touched my shoulder, cold, ethereal. I spun, but nothing. Running back to the truck, I realized the twist. The CB crackled with my own voice from that old night, confessing a swerve, a thud. Had I killed someone? No records, but the guilt was real. Or was Mary planting it, a curse looping forever? I quit trucking the next morning, but last night my home radio whispered, "Route 66, again." Am I next to vanish? I never thought I'd be the one spilling my guts like this, but after what happened on I-80 that foggy November night in 2024, I can't keep it bottled up anymore. My hands shake just thinking about it. The way those headlights pierce the mist like accusing eyes, the rumble of engines that shouldn't have been there, fading into nothing. I'm Jack Riley, a 25-year veteran of the long haul, and this is my confession. If I don't get it out, those phantom trucks will haul me under for good. It hit me out of nowhere, right around mile marker 300, west of Kearney, Nebraska. I'd been pushing through the fog, my rig groaning under a load of machine parts bound for Denver. The CB had been quiet all night, just the occasional crackle of static, when suddenly it lit up with voices. Old-timey chatter, like from a 70s convoy song, talking about black ice ahead and keep the hammer down. I grabbed the mic, figuring it was some retro jokers, but no one answered. Then in my mirrors, I saw them. A line of semis, maybe 5 or 6, materializing out of the fog like ghosts from the prairie. No taillights, just dim outlines, driving in perfect formation. My heart skipped. I floored it, but they kept pace, silent and relentless. But that was only the beginning. I've been trucking since '99, starting out with local runs before going coast to coast. I-80 through Nebraska was always my least favorite stretch. Flat as a pancake, endless cornfields giving way to desolate plains, especially after dark. The fog rolls in thick from the Platte River, turning the highway into a blind tunnel. I'd heard the whispers at truck stops, like the Iowa 80 just over the border, where drivers swap tales over burnt coffee. Stories of haunted rest areas with cold spots and footsteps in empty halls, or the Devil's Canyon near McCook, where a family vanished in the 1800s. But the one that stuck was the vanishing convoy. Truckers claiming to spot a ghostly fleet on foggy nights, rigs from another era driving driverless before dissolving into the mist. I laughed it off as road fatigue or too much no-dots, until that night, hauling through the soup near Grand Island, the air heavy with damp earth and diesel. My headlights barely cut 10 feet ahead, the wipers smearing the glass. That's when the CB sparked again. Convoy leader to tail gunner, watch for the drop-off. Vintage lingo, but the voices sounded real, pained even. I scanned the road, and there they were in my side mirror. Old Kenworths and Peterbilts, no plates, no markings, cruising at my speed like shadows. I wish I had pulled over right then. The fog thickened as we passed Lexington, the highway empty except for us. No oncoming lights, no mile markers visible, just the endless black ribbon. I tried radioing other drivers. "Breaker, this is Big Red. Anyone copy that old chatter?" Silence, then a burst of static with a faint scream woven in, like metal twisting. My cab grew cold, frost spiderwebbing the windows despite the heater blasting. Up ahead, a faint glow. The convoy's headlights, yellowed and flickering, illuminating nothing but swirling mist. I eased off the gas, letting them pull away, but they slowed too, maintaining distance. Panic set in. Were they real? I flashed my highs, and for a split second, The lead truck's cab lit up. Empty. No driver. Just a steering wheel turning on its own. My stomach dropped. I'd read about I-80 accidents, pileups in fog, like the 2019 crash near Sydney, where semis vanished in the whiteout, bodies never fully accounted for. Locals at Bosselman's in Grand Island whispered about lost convoys from the 80s, rigs that slid off black ice into ravines, crews haunting the road ever since. The sound grew closer, and then I realized I wasn't alone. Strange events piled up as we neared North Platte. My GPS glitched, looping the same stretch of map, and the radio tuned itself to static-filled big band music, outdated and tinny. The convoy weaved slightly, like they were signaling me to follow. I remembered a story from a Reddit thread. Truckers spotting phantom semis on I-80 Wyoming. Black Peterbilts with no drivers, tied to a 2001 disappearance, where a rig was found idling, driver gone, handprints inside the cab. Was this the same? Nebraska's I-80 felt cursed that night, with its ghost towns like Antioch nearby, abandoned potash mines where shadows moved on their own. I pulled into a way station turnout, tires crunching gravel, hoping to shake them. But as I killed the engine, the fog pressed in, and I heard engines idling outside. No lights, just the low growl. Footsteps circled my rig, soft but deliberate, like boots on wet asphalt. I locked the doors, breath fogging the glass, and peered out. Outlines of trucks, spectral in the mist, doors ajar but cabs empty. But the worst was yet to come. Isolation clawed at me. The vast Nebraska plains swallowing everything. No cell signal, no help. The convoy's presence thickened the air, a metallic tang like blood mixing with the fog's chill. I fired up the engine, peeling out, but they reformed behind me, closer now. CB hissed, "Join the line, brother. Road's calling." My own voice? Impossible. Doubt crept in. Was I hallucinating? Truckers' forums buzzed with similar tales. A driver near Ogallala, seeing a fleet vanish into a ravine. Another in Sydney, hearing screams from empty trailers. Real accidents fueled it. Foggy wrecks where convoys plowed into each other, like the 1976 Blizzard pilot, dozens lost. I accelerated toward Sydney, the convoy matching, their forms shimmering. Lightning cracked the sky, revealing rusted hulls, dents from long-ago crashes. One truck's side mirror caught mine. No reflection of my rig, just empty road. I turned, but they were nowhere. Or were they? Shaken, I limped into a diner in Sydney, the kind with flickering neon and grizzled locals. The waitress, Earl's widow they called her, poured coffee with trembling hands. "Saw the convoy, huh? Black ice ghosts. 26 crash. 5 rigs gone in the fog, drivers never found." She leaned in. "They pull you in, make you part of it." I recounted the voices, the empty cabs. She nodded. Her husband vanished on I-80 and 02. Rig found empty. CB whispering his name. Forums confirmed. YouTube videos of driverless phantoms on I-80. Truckers disappearing. Trucks driving alone. I left, vowing to detour forever. But as I climbed back in, the fog rolled in again, and the CB murmured, "Convoy's waiting." The truth comes out. Or does it? Driving westward, horror built. Mirrors showed the convoy trailer, flickering like old film. I questioned sanity. Was it fatigue or something ancient? I-80's history. Lincoln Highway ghosts. Abandoned parallels with forsaken motels where footprints appeared in snow. Psychological terror mixed with danger. My brakes softened, steering pulled toward the shoulder. Lightning revealed roadside markers for fatal crashes, dated 1976. Coincidence or curse? Near the Wyoming border, a rest stop loomed, infamous for cold spots like Iowa 80's haunted halls. It wasn't just voices, it was my own regrets echoing back. The confrontation hit at dawn, pulling into that rest stop outside Cheyenne, technically Wyoming, but the nightmare started in Nebraska. Exhausted, I bunked down, but dreams replayed the convoy, reliving a 76 crash, me at the wheel. Waking sweat-soaked, I checked old logs. A foggy night in '99. A swerve. A thud dismissed as debris. Had I hit something? No report, but guilt surged. Facing my fear, I drove back east, but the fog returned. convoy ahead now. You caused it, the CB hissed, my voice. I floored it, trying to ram the lead truck, but passed through like mist, emerging alone. Either fight, flee, or fall. I chose to confront. Months later, I returned to that foggy stretch under a harvest moon, seeking closure. Markers dotted the roadside, real tragedy spawning legends. At mile 300, the air chilled, engines rumbled distantly. Why me? I whispered into the fog. Wind carried diesel scent, a voice, because you survived. Visions hit, 1976 blizzard, convoy sliding off, bodies lost. My 99 near miss, perhaps clipping a straggler. Something touched my shoulder, cold, vaporous. I spun, nothing. Racing back, the twist dawned. CB crackled my voice from 99, confessing a hit and run. Had I killed a driver? No records, but guilt solidified. Or was the convoy planted, looping forever? I quit trucking the next morning. But last night, my garage radio whispered, I-80, again. Am I next to join the line? If this story gave you chills, hit like, subscribe, and turn on notifications. You never know what's coming next.